Hello friends, it's me again Hesti. Welcome back to another cozy reading journal video. As you probably seen from the title, today I'm setting up my reading journal for April and I'm so excited for this month theme. We are diving back into one of my absolute favorite readathons, the Orilium Magical Readathon, and to match its enchanting vibe, I'm going with forestry witchy theme filled with lush green, earthy brown, and whimsical touch. As always, I'm starting off with the cover page. I really wanted this forest witch sticker to be the star of the show, so I layer it with a soft pattern frame to make it pop. Most of the supplies I'm using today are from the printable journaling kit I designed for my Patreon members. If you would like to get your hands on them too, there is a link down below where you can join my little journaling community. Now back to the setup. I imagine this little witch sitting cozily on a bush, so I built up the scene using layers of floral and leafy stickers. It might be a bit hard to see clearly because of the sticker glare. For the title, I printed April on transparent sticker paper so it blends seamlessly with the background. Then I finish it off with a frame floral sticker and a little green butterfly for that final magical. For the next page, I'm picking out a pattern that fits the overall theme of this setup. These pattern paper are actually from a past Patreon reward, and if you are a paid member, no matter which tier, you still have access to them. I ended up going with this vintage style script paper, which felt just right for the mood I'm going for. I tore the paper loosely for that organic layer look, and then I will glue it down on the right side of the notebook. I actually created this background by combining 3 different patterns into one base design. Think of it like a digital version of a photo mat in Scrapbook layout. Instead of layering physical paper on top of each other, which can make the page bulky, I did it digitally so it's nice and flat. You'll see why that's helpful when we move on to the next page. Next, I made this little letterbox by resizing the same frame I used on the cover page and adding letters inside. I've also included a blank version of this in the journaling kit, so you can personalize it and add your own title. This spread is dedicated to my personal reading challenge called the 5-Fold Challenge. Each month, I pick 5 books from 5 different categories that tie into my yearly reading goals. For April, here's what I've planned. 9th house for the fantasy category. Go Like Yourself for a 2025 release. More Days at Morisaki Bookshop for a book I already own. Gemina for a book I bought before 2022. And The Apothecary Diaries Volume 9 for a series I'm continuing. Once I had the main structure down, I added a few stickers around the letterbox to fill in the empty spaces and make the page feel more complete and pretty. Moving on to the next page, this one for my daily reading log, where I will track how many pages I read each day and keep a running list of the books I'm reading throughout the month. I'm reusing that same vintage script paper from the previous spread, tearing it loosely and layering it on the top and bottom left corner for some texture and continuity. To add some interest around the calendar, I place a leaf sticker on the left side and another up at the top of the page to balance things out. On the bottom, I layer washi tape and stickers over the vintage paper, and by the way, I love how this turned out. The washi tape is from Amazon, and I will leave a link to it in the description below. The green leaves on the left side are from a sticker pack I got from Journal Say. I will try to find a link or something similar for you as well. For the main part of the page, I added a simple hand-drawn calendar. I kept it narrow and just used the left side of page since I really only need space to jot down page numbers each day. On the right, I left it open for a decor and little bit breathing room. Something I did a little differently this month is that I added space for the days of the week above the calendar. I used my alphabet stamps to mark the first letter of each day, and for the dates, I wrote them in the lower right corner of each box using my Sakura Pigma Micron 0.1. Now that I think about it, I always end up adding the day's name like this during the Magical Readathon months. It is a fun little habit I didn't even realize I had until now. And finally, for the blank calendar squares where the dates don't fall, I just fill them in with a few stickers to make the page feel complete and balanced. Now for the right side page, this one for the list of books I'll be reading this month. I mirrored the decoration from the previous page by adding the same pattern paper to the top and bottom right corner to keep everything cohesive. For the title, I drew a simple border using my Pigma Micron 0.3 and later I added a double line to give it that slightly vintage look. I used my alphabet stamps to stamp the words daily log. Originally, I wanted to title it Reading Tracker, but I didn't have enough space, and honestly, daily log still makes sense, right? In the end, it's just me anyway. There is not much decoration at the top, just a couple of stickers to keep it simple. Under the title, I made a large box where I will list all the books that I will read this month. It might look like a big space, but with the Orilium Readathon happening, I'm hoping to get through more books than usual. I will talk more about that when I start setting up the Readathon page. For this spread, I really wanted to use this girl sticker, and I thought it would be fun to surround her with flowers and leaves, kind of like she is in an overgrown garden. So I layer a mix of floral and greenery sticker, placing some behind her and some on top of her for that layer effect. Most of the flowers were printed on transparent sticker paper, but I realized a few of them were a bit too light and didn't stand out well on the background. So you will see me placing them on plain white paper first to make them pop better when layered over the girl sticker. Now we've finished setting up the daily reading log. Let's move on to the start of the setup, my Orilium Magical Readathon spreads. I'm especially excited about this part because I'm finally doing something I've been wanting to try since last year but never got a chance to until now. For this year's Spring Equinox edition of the Orilium, I will be creating a layout that's inspired by a scrapbook album, complete with flap, folds, pockets, and all the fun little details. I've already prepped all the supplies I'll be using, and to save a bit of time, I went ahead and cut everything out of camera, otherwise this video might end up being hours long. If you'd like to use these pattern papers for your own journal, you can find them as printable available on my Patreon. Let's start with the first assembly, which is the left side flap. Since I'll be layering a lot of paper throughout this setup, I'm trying to minimize the use of base mats to avoid too much bulk. So instead of mounting the pattern paper on the cardstock mat, I simply glue two pattern paper back to back. I use 100 GSM paper, so once they are layered, the thickness feels similar to a single piece of cardstock. Just thick enough to stay flat and sturdy, but not too bulky for the journal. The flap measured 10 by 7 cm, but I left an extra 3 cm on the red pattern paper to act as the hinge or wing that let me attach it to the page. Once I made sure both paper were lined up properly, I glued the flap behind the notebook page. I did this on purpose, not just to make the flap sturdier, since I'll be adding more layers on top, but also to reduce bulk by sticking two notebook pages together instead of layering on top. For the base of the page, I wanted to give it a neat frame look, so I colored the edge of the notebook black to mimic a mat, then glue down the blue grid pattern paper as the background. Next up is a small pocket. Just like the flap, I didn't use a mat for this one either. I glued two different pattern paper together for the pocket base. Then added the Orilium Readathon artwork created by G, the amazing creator of this readathon, on the front. To give it room for an insert, I used double-sided tape only on the left, right, and bottom edges. Since I'm only going to slide in a single piece of paper, I didn't need to create much depth. Now for the pocket insert, I'm using it to store my student report card. Again, to keep the scrapbook feel but reduce page thickness, I layered the pattern paper and the report card artwork digitally, then printed it out as one piece. I also made a small pull tab by gluing a label to the top and writing Spring Equinox on it. This makes it easy to pull out and adds a cute little detail. For the syllabus, which lists all the reading prompts that represent each subject for the Spring Equinox, I added pattern paper to the top and bottom to tie it in with the rest of the spread. This artwork is also provided by G. Seriously, she put so much love into this readathon. Now, let's move on to the right side flap. Just like the first one, I glued two different pattern papers together. One of them has extra space on the side to create a hinge. For consistency, I used the same blue pattern from the left flap for the wing on the right, then pair it with a cherry red gingham pattern. On the flip side of the flap, I use an earth tone decorative paper with butterflies and leaves. The color and illustration bring in a bit of variety from the other patterns while still complementing the overall theme. I love how no matter which flap you open or close, the color feels like they belong together. It's a small detail, but it makes the whole layout feel cohesive and magical. Next, I'm working on a layer that I'll be adding to the left flap. It's a square-shaped piece, and on one side feature a pattern that matches the right flap. Meanwhile, on the other side, I'm using the stunning crimson red decorative paper that filled with magical elements, moons, stars, fairy. It's just so dreamy and whimsical. This insert is where I'm featuring my Orilium character, Aina Kuilong. I printed her illustration and added her name using a vintage style label. Kind of like an ID card, at least that's the vibe I was going for. I'm attaching this piece to the inside of the left flap with Aina's illustration facing inward. I center it on the flap and secure it with double-side tape. When everything is closed, the left flap sits on top of the right one, so you will see a sliver of that beautiful crimson red paper peeking out with the earthy deco paper from the right flap as the background. It's a subtle detail, but it adds such a nice layer effect. For a finishing touch, I added a little banner representing Aina's guild. She's part of the House of Arcane, which is in Orilium Academy, is kind of like a Hogwarts house. That's our symbol right there. If you are also participating in this readathon and you're from the same guild, let me know in the comment. Now, the last part of this page setup is the pocket I created earlier. I position it in the middle of all the layers and glue it on top the flap, allowing it overlap slightly so that about a quarter of it sits on top of the crimson red paper. It creates a nice visual break and brings all the colors together. Oh, and I almost forgot, on the right flap, I added a little section to showcase my character's scholar's key, basically a summary of her details like name, race, home, career path, and more. Now that this page is done, let me give you a quick little tour. At the top layer, we have the pocket where I store my character student report card. I added 2025 to the front for the year and Spring Equinox on the pull-out tab. Then when we open the flap to the left, you'll see my character photos, her name, and her guild banner. On the opposite side, there is a flap that opens to the right, and here I've added her detailed student profile, and tucked right between these two flaps, I've placed this year's Spring Equinox syllabus with all the subjects and reading prompts for the readathon. Now let's move on to the next page. The left side of this spread is all about my character background, like her photos, personal detail, and her progress so far in the Orilium Academy. The right page focuses on her career path, or as it's called in this readathon, her calling. Just like the previous one, I'm keeping the scrapbooking album style, but to reduce bulk, I did a little trick. I cut out one page completely and left just a 2.5 cm strip, which I glued to the next page to give me a nice sturdy base. It also helped everything lay flatter. I color all the edge with a black brush pen, especially around the glue seam, so it blends in and doesn't stand out. For the base, I chose this vintage botanical decorative paper. I wanted to go with something a little more subtle compared to the pattern page on the left, just to balance things out visually. Now, unlike the first page, I used base paper for all the flaps on this one. The reason is simple. The flap structure here is a bit more complex, and I needed a solid base to keep everything centered and layered cleanly. I work from back to front, starting with a simple background I printed on a sticker paper. It has the same blue grid pattern as the left page, so everything ties together. Next, I added a flap that opens upward. For the base, I used notebook style paper, and for the front part of this flap, I picked a beautiful indigo decorative paper with gold butterflies. On the reverse side of the flap, I reused the blue grid pattern again, but added a strip of the indigo paper at the top to act as the flap hinge. I designed this digitally so the color flowed nicely, and as always, I added a black border to mimic the look of a mat, just like a real scrapbook layout. One thing I pay special attention to while designing this is pattern coordination. I try to make sure that no matter which flap you open or which insert you pull from a pocket, the patterns blend beautifully and feel cohesive. A tiny example, on top of the indigo flap, you'll see a touch of red pattern. It is the same one I used on the left flap on the previous page. Little details like that make the whole spread feel more thoughtful and connected. For the next layer, I folded a piece of paper to create a little mini notebook insert as the base. I cover it with a mix of the same blue grid, red gingham, and navy patterns that I used earlier. Just rearrange them to create a fresh combination. I put the design together digitally for a flatter finish, but if you want to add more texture and dimension to your page, you can definitely try layering the paper manually. It will give such a beautiful tactile effect. And in case you are curious about the measurement for all the layers in these two pages, I have something exciting to share. This month, I launched a new Patreon tier called Cianwood. Members in this tier will receive bi-weekly mini journaling kit in addition to the regular monthly kit. One special bonus is that you'll also get detailed scrapbooking layout measurement, just like the one I'm using here. Setting up this month reading journal has truly reminded me how much I love scrapbooking, and I'm so excited to bring that passion into my journaling again. I hope you're just as excited to join me on this new adventure. Now, back to the setup. I position the mini notebook so the top flaps stick out slightly, letting each of the layers show through from the bottom to the top. It adds such a nice stack effect. I glue the mini notebook onto the top flap, so when it closes, the front looks tidy and clean. but once you flip it open, the back of the mini notebook is revealed, and that's why I used the navy blue pattern on the back. And now we finally reached the last layer of this setup. Just like the previous page, I'm adding a pocket as the top layer, but this time it's almost twice the size on the one we made before. For this pocket, I chose the cherry red gingham and green pattern papers, the same one I used on the left page. I love how it ties the whole spread together and keeps the look cohesive. On the front, I added the label that says calling because this pocket will be used to store all the badge my character has earned throughout the year. In the Orilium Readathon, whenever our character complete an academic year, they receive a badge to mark their progress in their chosen calling, kind of like leveling up their magical career path. Over the past 3 years, my character has actually pursued different callings each year, so this little pocket will hold all 3 badges. It feels really special to keep them all in one place like this. Once I glued the pocket on top, I made sure to arrange it so that the top flap is still visible on the left side and the mini notebook flap peeked out just a little at the bottom. That way, all the layers we've built still have their moment to shine. I have this fun little graphic for each calling my character has pursued. It includes all the required classes for the Spring Equinox, and there is a space to add the book covers for each prompt too. This graphic were made by some incredible talented member of the Orilium Discord community. Seriously, the creativity there is amazing. As I mentioned earlier, my character has followed 3 different callings over the past 3 years, and this year I'm hoping to level up at least 2 of them. It kind of feels like I'm doing a double degree this semester. So, on each side of the mini notebook flap, I added the reading requirement for 2 of my callings. The first is Archmage, which was my character's very first calling, and the second is Thread Mage, which I picked last year. Each calling comes with a different set and number of classes to pass, but some of them overlap, which is super helpful. For example, both Archmage and Thread Mage share 4 of the same classes. The only difference is Restoration for Thread Mage and Art of Illusion and Conjuration for Archmage. Now for my third calling, Illusionist Rogue. This one only has 3 required classes, but only one of them overlaps with the other. I placed this one on the top flap, and when you open it, you can see how the blue pattern peeks through. I felt like the top of the flap looked a little plain, so I added a couple of cute stickers, a book, and a witch hat to make it more fun and whimsical. And finally, the last part. Before the Spring Equinox announcement video dropped, I was planning to just focus on level up my existing callings. I didn't have any new ones in mind. But of course, G, the amazing creator of the readathon, introduced more callings, and 2 of them caught my eyes, Lexomancer and Hallkeeper. So just in case I change my mind, which I probably will, I also printed out those graphics. I didn't glue them down like the others. Instead, I tucked them into this little book sticker pocket I added right here. And that's it. Everything is done. Let me give you a final flip through. I honestly love how this theme turned out. It's beyond what I imagined, and I know I might be a little biased, but this has to be my favorite setup so far. I really enjoy every moment of putting it together. The scrapbook style layer in particular I'm so proud of how they came out. It definitely took longer than usual, but I keep finding myself flipping back to these pages. It even motivates me to read faster just so I can fill in the book covers and update the layout. If you like this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up, and if you are into journaling and reading, make sure to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon, friends.